no McCaffrey? No problem. Well, at least for the fantasy managers who were able to snag the 49ers backup running back ahead of kickoff on Monday night. Backup running back Jordan Mason shined under the primetime lights in place of CMC, putting up a 147-yard, one-touchdown performance against the Jets in the season opener and his first career start. Well, there's certainly some concern for fantasy managers of Christian McCaffrey, but also some other starters whose statuses are in question for Week 2. Both Dolphins tailbacks currently questionable with varying injuries to start the week. Packers quarterback Jordan Love expected to miss some time with an MCL sprain. Rams second-year wideout Puka Nacua headed to the IR and will miss at least the next 4 weeks of the season. And Bears rookie wideout Rome Odunze currently week to week while dealing with a knee injury. And we are now joined by CBS Sports fantasy sports writer Heath Cummings. Says it did not take long for some fantasy managers to just have to start scouring the waiver wire for some depth and replacements at a number of positions, or even for those overachievers, maybe looking to stash some talent for the future. But nonetheless, I want to dive into some options who might be available on the waiver wire to maybe help some fantasy managers that are struggling. And I want to start with that quarterback position. In some cases, poor play might send people to the waiver wire, or maybe that injury of Jordan Love left a major need for others. But who would you say is your top quarterback to claim heading into Week 2?
So it is Baker Mayfield, and it's funny, Baker Mayfield probably should have been the top option to add last week, and he was one of our options to add going up against that terrible Washington Commanders secondary. He threw 4 touchdown passes. He was the #1 quarterback in fantasy, and he's still available in more than a third of CBS Sports leagues. So go get him playing at the Detroit Lions. The games played in Detroit over the last 3 years have produced more than 50 points on a regular basis. You look at the over-unders for this week. Tampa Bay at Detroit, one of the highest over-unders of the week. You look at what happened the last time these two teams played in the playoffs. A lot of points, 40-plus passes for Baker Mayfield. I think we see him throw it 40 times again. He probably won't throw 4 touchdowns, but that's okay. Still going to be good enough to be a top 15 fantasy quarterback for you. A great replacement for Love. You know, you said something interesting there, and I just want to hit on that point. Like, some people are looking for injury replacements. Some people are looking to replace people who struggled in Week 1. Let's just be careful how far we take that. If you drafted somebody in the first 3 rounds of fantasy drafts, don't be replacing them by somebody off the waiver wire in Week 2.
Okay, telling us to err with caution. Don't panic just yet. It's just Week 1. We still have plenty of fantasy football to go. But meanwhile, at the running back position, Jordan Mason might be a high get for a lot of those fantasy owners with that CMC news. But also considering what's going on out in Miami, managers looking to shore up that running back position. I want to know, who's your top running back to claim that might help fill some voids?
So I've got Zach Charbonnet here, and I want to give a disclaimer at the start for this as well. Jordan Mason was added over the weekend by some teams. He's now rostered in more than a third of CBS, 2/3 of CBS leagues. So we don't put him as available, but check and make sure he's not available in your league first. He'd be a great add. Zach Charbonnet, though, Ken Walker dealing with an abdomen injury. He's suffered with that problem in the past. We saw Charbonnet catch 2 of 3 passes for 29 yards and score a receiving touchdown. This matchup is a bit of a question mark. The New England defense much better against Cincinnati than we thought they were going to be, but I think the Bengals just had some offensive struggles. If Walker misses time, Charbonnet is going to be a great start. You mentioned those Dolphins. Also, Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright, 2 guys we want to pick up. If one of Mostert or Achane misses time, then I think Wilson will be the guy. If both of those guys miss, Jalen Wright could be a really good option off the bench.
Some extra options just for us to keep in mind. All right, let's move on to the wide receiver position. Managers, and I'm talking about myself right here, might be in a conundrum following the Puka Nacua news out in LA. The Rams without one of their top wideouts for at least the next 4 weeks as he heads to the IR, and with the potential to not return until Week 7, considering that the Rams have a Week 6 bye. But who should fantasy managers look to claim at that wideout position?
It's Rashid Shaheed. He was a part of that Saints blowout of the Carolina Panthers. Chris Olave didn't show up. That's okay, because Rashid Shaheed was there. And what we've seen from Rashid Shaheed in the past is he has the big play ability. He is getting downfield, 30-yard explosive plays. That's what he does. What we've not seen so much is a high target share. He actually led the Saints in targets in this game with only 5 of them because they only threw 23 passes because of the blowout win. I'm very interested to see in a matchup against the Cowboys, it's going to see a lot more passes pass attempts, if he can maintain that target share, if he can be anywhere close to a 20% target share guy with the efficiency he's always produced, he might just be a top 25 fantasy wide receiver rest of season and a very good replacement for Puka Nacua over the next month.
Okay, sorry, Heath. 1 second, just, put in my waiver claim. All right, so finally, they say defense wins championships and potentially fantasy leagues too. So who's a top defense to stream heading into week 2?
I mean, there's so many good options because all the offenses were terrible in week 1. So everybody looks like a good streaming option. But I feel pretty confident that the New England Patriots are not going to be a good offense. They took advantage of that bad Cincinnati Bengals run defense in week 1. The Seattle Seahawks will shut down the run. They're going to force Jacoby Brissett to beat them. And that makes the Seahawks my top streaming ad of the week. If for some reason they were already rostered because they had a great matchup last week, you could also look to the Indianapolis Colts going against Malik Willis. The Seahawks or the Colts, both great options.
Always can count on you for the best updates right there. Heath, thanks so much for the insight. And if you like what you're hearing from Heath, there's more where that came from. He's joined by Adam Azer, Dave Richard, Jamie Eisenberg for the Fantasy Football Today podcast, where whether it's buying or selling, sitting or starting, the Fantasy Football Today podcast gives you all the tools you need to dominate your league. Download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.